Hey y'all, this is Lauren Akins, and welcome to the Live and Love podcast. Each week, I get to sit down with friends and family and talk about the different areas of our lives where we get to live in love. We've got some behind-the-scenes things we're going to get to share with you too, things you may not know, even if you've already read my book, Live in Love.
And I'm Annie F. Downs, and I'm so excited to be here with Lauren and to be with y'all and be part of this really special show. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. And remember, there's some before this one, so go back and listen to all those as well. Lauren's New York Times bestselling book, Live in Love, just released in the paperback edition, and you can get it right now, and you should. You can pick up the paperback copy of Live in Love at your favorite local bookstore or wherever you love to buy books. We're talking today about one of your favorite topics, how to live in love in motherhood. So who is joining us for this conversation?
So today we get to sit down with one of my very best friends, April Tomlin. We do so much life together. And I also get to sit down with our nanny. Her name is Mackenzie Wright. And we're going to get to talk about what it's like to live in love in motherhood.
Okay, Lauren, we're talking about motherhood.
Yay!
You're great at that.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone loves your three girls.
They are
already.
sweet.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. Who is in this conversation with us and why?
So I asked one of my very best friends, April, to come. She is somebody who has gone through a lot of my life with me, although we really didn't get to be good friends until probably like 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And
But you were already in her life?
Yeah, I was helping her with our house, and we realized that we lived around the corner from
Okay.
each other.
and our husbands knew of each other.
Yep.
But now, like, we do so much life with them. And our girls, I love this. But Willa Gray is 11 months older than Everly, her Everly. And Everly is 10 months older than Ada James. And Ada James is 9 months older than her Adeline. And then Lennon
Oh my gosh,
was born.
they're just a stair step.
Yeah.
Stair step.
So our girls are like perfectly in between each other, and I don't have any nieces or nephews yet, and so we always tell our girls that
Same.
Everly and Adeline are their cousins because I'm like, well, you don't have cousins yet, but Everly and Adeline are your cousins.
100%.
So we get to do. I just thought it would be really cool to have April come on because we share so much of the same heart and being moms and like the struggles of being moms and the realistic side of being moms, but also like the joy and how much fun it is. But then getting to be friends being moms is incredible. But I also brought Mackenzie, and she is our nanny. She is someone who I would not be able to be the mother that I am without Mackenzie because Thomas Stratton and I both work now. We have 3 little girls. And life is hectic. And we do have a lot of family around because people are like, well, don't you have like family everywhere? We do have family coming out of our ears. But I want my family to be able to have my kids spend the night at their house on the weekends or go on a small trip with them or whatever and enjoy it instead of it being like, Mom, you have to be here on Monday, also Thursday, and can you come back early Friday morning? So Mackenzie has really allowed me to be able to enjoy my family time and allow me and Thomas Rhett to go on dates and traveling, which can just throw you into a whole different mess of a fit. She's just come in and like my extra set of hands with my children, and she's somebody who my kids so look up to, her and her roommates. They call Mackenzie and her roommates the sisters. And so like
sweet.
they've spent the night with them a couple of times, and so Mackenzie is just somebody who's able to who we share, just like April and I, our faith. We know exactly what it is and who it is built on. And so for me, opening up my children to another woman is really vulnerable to be like, okay, I know I need help.
You're going to see everything because you're here. Yeah.
Yes. And B, being able to trust that who they are with when they're not with me is somebody who is pointing them to Jesus, who is loving them well, and who's going to be honest with me about like, hey, you know, Willa Gray kind of had an attitude yesterday. I feel like we need to work through this. Or I've told Ada James 3 times she has to finish this plate of food, and now I'm calling you in on this because like you weren't here today, but when you get home, and sometimes that's how the day goes. It wasn't a good day, but we'll try again the next day. And then other days I come back and the girls have like, they've gone out to Sonic and gotten a slushie, and they're out playing at the park, and And so it's getting to do life with Mackenzie is also like such a blessing. And then is just allowing me to be the mother that I am with Mackenzie, and then with the friends that I have like brought alongside me to do motherhood with and be real with. So I'm really excited to have y'all here.
Mackenzie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of friends listening who aren't married yet, don't have kids yet, but they either are a nanny or have nephews and nieces or have families where they help take care of the kids. What is it like to be a mother without being a mother yet?
Yeah.
Do you think you are? Do you think you're mothering?
I feel like it doesn't take to have kids, you know, for myself to feel the love of a mother. Like, I feel like that I could love these kids like they're my own, and I like get so emotional thinking about them. But I think that it takes a humble place to come and be like, hey, I want to be here to like love the best that I can for your kids, and just come every day ready to serve her and love her and care for her the best that I can, if that answers your question.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
April,
Yes.
you have 2 girls.
Yes.
How is motherhood different than you thought it would be?
Well, number one, I'm already crying just even like, so that's different.
Yeah, we got this right here. Tissues always.
I just was crying hearing Mac talk about it. So that's different.
So that's different.
So, you know, what's funny about me versus Lauren, I didn't know Lauren that well before motherhood, but I know enough about her now. Choosing nursing, the family that she comes from, just knowing like her, you know, we're very much the same. We're very aligned when it comes to Jesus and how we follow Jesus, but we're very different in our personalities.
Very.
I mean, extremely. And so you're so much kinder than me.
That's not true.
No, we're kind in different ways. You know, we're just kind in different ways. Well,
Yeah.
before I just know that Lauren, before motherhood, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm speaking for you, but like was everyone around her was like, you're going to be an amazing mother. Like you're just going to be. It's not that anybody would have said like, you're not going to be an amazing mother to me, but even myself, like I didn't like a lot of other kids, like my friends' kids. Like if I'm being like brutally honest, like I would be at Los Paletas, like, you know, in my 20s, and like there would be all these kids there.
Which is a popsicle place here in town.
Yeah. Las Paletas is a popsicle place, and lots of kids go there, but I like popsicles, so I would go there.
Same.
And there would be all these kids around, and thoughts that would go through my head, I'm not going to say them out loud because you might misinterpret who I am as a human being, but honestly, like, there were moments where I was like, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do. Anyway, fast forward.
A lot of people feel what you're feeling. So that's really great to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, so I was nervous. I was like, I don't want to bring kids into the world and not be able to love them the way. And I felt very called to design, and I felt like, how am I, you know, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I can't afford it, and it's just not what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, anyways, fast forward to today. This is not a cocky statement. This is just a true statement. I am a better mom than I am a designer. Wow. And not to say I'm an amazing designer, but just
I was about to say you're an amazing designer.
No, but just to say, like, I feel more confident being a mother than I do feel being a designer. And so I tell people this when I hear them say, like, oh, I don't want kids. I'm like, you don't know that. Like, you don't know that. And just because you're not wired, like, your personality is not very, like, I don't have, like, I'm not very soft-spoken, and I'm, you know, just not, like, a typical soft-spoken kind of person or female. I'm pretty bold in my statements. Lauren will tell you this. And this is how my voice sounds. Like God gave me this exact voice, and it just sounds like this. And so, you know, that makes you question, like, well, I'm not as sweet as other people, and I'm not this and I'm not that. And today I feel more confident being a mom than I do really any role that I've been given. You know, I think that has a lot to do with Jesus and me following him, especially lately. Another thing that I would say is very different is if you are a Christian and you're an active follower of Jesus, you definitely will understand when I say, like, talk about spiritual attacks. Lauren and I talk about it all the time in our group of women that we do life with in prayer. And when your kids are spiritually attacked, which mine have been. And I had been previous to kids, and it didn't like shake me. But when my kids were, like, I almost turned around and was just like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't attack my kids, you know? So it brings on this whole other dimension.
What did it look like? Can you tell us what it looked like? It didn't mean, like, is it nightmares? Is it bad stuff at school? Can you give us some high-level thoughts on that?
So spiritual warfare with kids is interesting, right? I believe that they're so much more innocent and can see things different than we can see things. And I'm not talking about ghosts and things like that. I'm not getting weird on the podcast. But I am saying that at a certain point, it wasn't too long ago, I did feel a darkness over my home. And I could just feel it. I just knew something was not right. And I actually called Lauren, to be honest. And I was like, something's not right in my house. And my kids started saying things. Like, they started saying that they were seeing things. And I know kids say that, but I personally felt it. I'm not going to get too much in detail, you know, because if you're not Christian, you probably won't want to become a Christian if I say it. But anyways, it was the first time that when I was spiritually attacked, I could handle it. I would go into prayer. When my kids were, it was more like, Jesus, what are you going to ask of me? What are you going to ask of my kids?
Wow.
You know? Mm-hmm. And if I'm being very honest, like, there's a book and a girl in Nashville. Her name's Katie, and she's got a book called, like, Kisses with Katie, and she's in Africa raising all these kids. And when I was single, that was an amazing story that I read. And then when I thought about my own kids, I was like, am I okay with that? And so, to be honest, today it's still a very big struggle. And, like, what is he going to call them to do? And how am I going to be okay with that? Because if he calls them away, I'm honestly today not okay with that. And so I have to make some peace and develop a deeper trust in Jesus than I did have to do when I was single. When it was just me and I only had to think about me, I was like, I'm yours, do whatever. And with my kids, I've had a harder time turning them over.
Me too. I mean, I think any mom who is serious about walking with Jesus, I mean, that's where the enemy is gonna attack.
Yes.
As a mother. If that is your favorite role in life, is being a mother, which I know a lot of moms it is, 100% your marriage and your kids is where he's gonna try to attack you. And we have talked about this so much. Me and April have. But I just had, every time this, like, paralyzing fear comes over me that, like, one of my kids is going to be taken from me early, like, they're not going to live past a certain age, or, like, I'm going to go on this trip and our plane's going to go down, I'm never going to be able to get to be with my kids again, or like, just the craziest
thoughts
just will come into my mind. And I'm like, what in the first of all, that's not from God. I know that he is not telling me that. So in the name of Jesus, I'm silencing that voice. I will not allow the enemy to, like, whisper these lies to me. Secondly, I know that these kids are God's first, and that he created them, and he loves them even more than I can possibly love them, which I cannot even wrap my mind around. But I have to believe it because I know it to be true. Mm-hmm. And if I know that he loves them more than I love them, I have to trust that what he is going to call them to is good, ultimately. Mm-hmm. Mothering with open hands, handing them over to God, handing them over to a nanny while you go work, handing them over to your husband while you go out of town with your girlfriends because you really need it on a weekend. Handing your kids over is extremely hard,
difficult
for a mom.
It is.
But it is something that as you hand them over, you watch them transform into the little person that God wants them to be. And thankfully, I can't believe I get to be their mother and get to be the one to watch them grow and become who he's called them to be. And it's so much fun. It is very hard, but it is so much fun. It is the most fun I've ever had in a job, because motherhood is a very, very hard job, but it is my most fulfilling job I've ever done. But at the same time, it's also where you don't get thanked very much from your kids. So it's fulfilling in ways that if you're pouring into the Lord and allowing the Lord to pour into you, that's where he comes in and says, you're doing a great job. You are a great mother. And I see how you are loving these girls well. And that's what is fulfilling, is just knowing that I'm doing my purpose and I'm fulfilling my purpose. And it's with 3 little beings that I couldn't love more. But if you're not filling your time and letting him fill you up with his peace and with his truth and with his, I see you in the details and in the moments where you don't feel seen, then it's really easy to just feel not seen, or nobody's going to say, hey, way to be a great mom today. You changed all those diapers. You made those sandwiches. You cleaned up this laundry. You let Ada James body slam you 12 times today. And you got back up every time and didn't yell at her. Like you just, it will wear you down. And so you've got to have that truth being poured into you as a mom. And I know we've talked about small group so much in this, but my small group is a huge part of that. I'm also like in a women's group with April, and that's a huge part of that. It is hard, but if you do it right, and if you're doing it right with the right person, aka Jesus, it is the most fulfilling job in the whole world.
April, when Lauren brings up a really great thing, moms don't get thanked very much. You get thanked on Mother's Day. Your friends thank you, but like the little people are not thanking you.
Oh no.
And so how is God showing you appreciation during the day? Do you ever see other things? Is there ever like, and then a bunch of birds showed up, and then someone called me that came out of nowhere? Like, what are other ways that God shows you he's with you during the day of mothering?
No, kids do not say thank you, Mom, but they do say I love you. And when they say it, they mean it different than really any other human being that says it to you. It feels different. It's such an innocent expression of how I feel Jesus honestly feels about us. The way that they say it is they don't expect you to do anything. They have no judgment. That it's just this gracious, loving act. When they, my kids did it this morning. I mean, they literally just clung to me and were like, I love you, Mom. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go to work. And I don't get thanked, but I do get loved more by them and my husband in a way that I feel Jesus in those moments. And so, no, I do think that that's how you keep going. And also, there is something to a responsible role, right? Like, it kills me when people are like, if you've ever followed me or you know anything about my company, like the boss bitch movement kind of like sends me over the edge. I just like hate it so much. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's actually pointed very much towards like certain jobs. Yes. And those jobs usually aren't like doctors. Right. But there is a reason why I don't like it. It completely discredits stay-at-home mothers. When I go to work, it is a lot easier than what Mac does at work. My job is a lot easier than my nanny's job, Katie. And Katie and Mac are friends, which is hilarious. But
that's great.
It's much easier than Mac's job. So I get a break in essence. And then stay-at-home moms do not get a break. They've got to find all of this love in their heart to love all day long. And then when I get home to express my love that I have not gotten to show all day, they have to keep doing that. And it kind of like rocks my world to think about, honestly. It's such an important role. And so the responsibility of having these kids watch you, whether you choose to work or whether you choose not to work. Even at my own job, nobody thanks me for being a good designer. Nobody thanks me. I just feel a responsibility. I feel a weight to do that, what I was called to do. Same thing with being a mom. There's a responsibility to that I feel like should give moms, like, sadly enough, I've even heard husbands say to me, but you work, my wife doesn't do much. And I could not correct somebody fast enough. I mean, you want to see my head like fully spin around? What do you mean I do more than your wife? Your wife is literally sharing like her love and her emotions and her all day. I can disconnect for a second. And then reconnect. Like, they never disconnect. And so the responsibility and the weight to be on all the time because your kids are watching you, I find it hard to do when I get home. Set my phone down, be present, show them Jesus. When I'm mad at my husband, calm my voice down when I want to scream. Like these things, I only have to do it. I do it on the weekends, and then I do it a few hours a day. As a stay-at-home mom, you have that responsibility and that weight all day long. And I think that women should take such pride in that, and they should tell their husbands to back up.
Yes. Preach, sister.
Seriously.
That's so good.
Mac, she brings up a really great point that you experience too, is our phones, right?
Yes.
We've got our phones with us all the time.
Yes.
And it is hard to stay focused on, and you have to have both, right? I mean, it's not like I turn my phone off from any time I'm with a child. That's not real.
Yeah.
But how are you learning, as you're mothering, along with Lauren, how are you learning the balance of being focused and where a phone plays into all this?
I mean, of course, I'm young, and in my generation, it's like if you don't have your phone, it's like this itch, that comes about. And thankfully, over the past couple years, I've separated myself from social media and separated myself from my phone. And it really does let me just kind of set that aside. And I feel like me and Lauren are notorious for losing our phones in the house. And
All day long.
praise God for the Apple Watch. You can ping that thing. But it just allows me to have so much more patience with the kids and so much more patience with myself and being present with them if I just put that aside and I don't have to worry about checking emails, checking when an Amazon order is going to be there, texting people back or whatever. And I feel like Lauren has grace for that. If I don't answer a text or call right away, thankfully she's knowing, okay, she's with my kids being present. So, yeah, it's good to just be separate from that. And I feel like I can do my job better and serve them better whenever I don't have the pressure of having that itch needing to be by me.
Yeah, because Lauren, a lot of times the internet will give you the appreciation that you're not getting at home.
Yeah.
And being on your phone will give you a distraction when things feel really hard at home. How are you balancing that?
Lauren doesn't get on Instagram ever.
That's the truth.
I'm going to vouch for that. She's about to say it, and y'all are going to think she's lying, but she really doesn't.
Yeah.
She posts and then she's gone.
And she's gone. Yeah.
I used to scroll. It was not a safe place for me. And I recognized that it took some time, but I mean, I think when you've got like millions of voices giving their opinion, I mean, I guess I don't have millions of comments, but when you scroll through my comments, there are lots of people giving their opinion. And 9 times out of 10, they're really sweet. And it does feel good to have somebody go, oh my goodness, I love your family so much. Your kids are the cutest. Or I love your love with Thomas Rhett. Or Willa Gray's the most precious angel in the world. Or Lennon's hair, I just love it. Or Ada James is the funniest personality. Because I love to like hear those affirmations about my family and my life because it feels good to have somebody tell you the things about yourself that you wish people would notice. But what I realized is as I was scrolling and watching and listening to the people speak into my life and make me feel better about myself, I realized, first of all, I put a lot of weight into what people were saying. And so then when a negative comment would come up and a very hurtful comment would open up or pop up on the screen or whatever, or like somebody would get into an argument on a thread and it was just back and forth. And I'm like, what are they arguing about? A lot of times it is targeted at me not being a good mom, usually. And for someone to look at me and say, you're not a good mom, that might be the most hurtful thing anyone could ever say to me.
Yeah.
And so when I realized how much weight I was putting into these comments and what people were saying, or articles, or whatever it may be, I realized that I was not allowing the true voices in my life that I respect and value, that know my heart, that know my character. I wasn't letting those voices have all the weight and God's voice have all the weight. I was allowing people who don't even know me to A, make me feel better, or B, cut me down. And then going back to the comments that made me feel good about myself, I realized I was chasing this need of like, I need someone to fill me up and tell me how good I am. But a lot of times they're coming from the world. So for me, it was not in a way that was like, you're doing a great job. Like the Lord has created you to do an amazing job. Keep working towards him. It was more like, you're doing this. You're incredible. Your kids are beautiful. Your relationship is marriage goals. Everything is like what the world would want you to hear. And so it started building this ego in me to where I was like, I am a great mom. I do have the cutest kids. My marriage is the best. I am able to do all this stuff. I started like loving myself, but not in like a joyful way that like I'm so thankful like God made me this way. More like, look at what I've done. And it was dangerous for me on 2 levels because I started becoming kind of my own God of my life and thinking that I was doing all this on my own. So that when things failed, I was very self-critical. I was very hateful to the people around me, especially my husband. I was not asking God and consulting him on major decisions in my life. I wasn't letting him pour into me. It shifted the way that I was. I talked about in an earlier episode where Suzanne Marinick called me out and was like, I can see your light dimming.
Yeah.
Like you are giving yourself over to to the world, and I can see it. And it was kind of in that moment where, like, almost like the height of our relationship and like me becoming famous along with Thomas Rhett and his career skyrocketing. And that's where that temptation comes in to be like, look at us, look what we've done, and just forget about like how to be humble or how to be grateful or how to like celebrate the wins in your life, but then also realize that to whom much is given, much responsibility is required. And you may be given all these things, but it's not for you to go boast about it. It's for you to go change the world with it. Like, what are you going to do with the things that he's given you? What are you going to do with the kids that he's given you? What are you going to do with the success, the money, the voice, the whatever it may be? All of those things can so easily, just a little turn of the dial, can go a very different way. And to me, social media was a big part of that, allowing those voices to plant things in my head, which seemingly were coming from a good place. But deep down, I realized it was not a safe place. They were not safe voices to listen to. Wow. And so, yeah, I'm not on social media as much anymore.
And April, you really operate in the two places that moms compare themselves the most.
Yes.
Being a mother and decorating homes.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's where, when I hear my mom friends talking, those are the two things that scrolling and even conversation where you compare the most. How do you get out of that game so that you mother really well for your kids?
Are you talking about social media or just the materialism of design?
Yes to both. You just go to both.
Well, social media, so I'm turning 40 this year, which,
woohoo!
Yes, happy birthday.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, there was no social media. And so it's not ingrained into me and to the depth that it is younger people. I've not truly struggled with it in a big way, to be honest.
Good.
As a matter of fact, I have an entire team of people begging me to post, and I just simply forget. And I don't say that to put any credit towards myself. I just wasn't around. It wasn't embedded in me. Thank you, Jesus. I have a totally different worry for my girls. I mean, they know how to operate stuff more. Actually, they're 4 and 2. They know how to operate iPads. I mean, like, they're literally, can you pay for this app? I'm like, Corey, can you pay for this app? I don't even know how to do that. Like, I don't even, literally, that happened this morning. And so we're just, I did not struggle with it in a way that I see other people struggling with it. However, Satan can use almost anything, even things that are not struggles for you, to become struggles for you. And recently, I had to call Lauren. There was such a hateful thing put on my page.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm Republican. And I don't even say that I'm Republican. They just figured it out, which is wild and crazy and stupid. There's no more dumb thing than to judge someone off their political views and to harass them, because I can't even wrap my mind around it. It makes me so mad. Well, someone came on to my thing, and they were, I've never seen this level of hate ever in real life. I'm like talking about getting Lauren's security people involved, and like I was very scared. That to me, instantly I took my kids off my page. Not entirely, like I still share them and their lives in a way that I'm proud of them. I want people to know that follow me and choose to follow along, because I really do appreciate, it's changed my world, people following along on social media and caring about our designs and our work and listening to me talk about Jesus and talk about my faith and not, throwing a bunch of hate my way. I really appreciate it. And the book that Lauren and I have been reading recently, like I started posting about that, and so many people bought the book and they're reading it. And I hope, it does for them what it did for me, because it totally changed my prayer life. So there's this huge respect for social media. And
is it Talking to God? Is it John Eldridge's
Walking with God?
Walking with God.
We've moved on to Moving with Mountains, but Walking with God is very good.
We've talked about that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Walking with God.
And so anyway, lots of people, tons of people bought the book and they were reading it. They've been DMing me about it. These are people I don't know. I think it's crazy cool. I think that's a really cool thing to experience. And I think it's a great platform. And because I don't struggle with it, I can participate in those things. But I did take the girls off in a big, huge way and created a private page that has like 200 followers or something like that. And that's just where I share their life, because I'm so proud, but I also share their life a little bit on my page. So I've had to take action about social media in just a protective type of way, because it's not like I was angry. Like I was actually like kind of terrified. I was like, the world is really full of hate right now. Like how far are people willing to go? And the answer to that question, quite frankly, scares me. you know, because I do know how far Satan's willing to go. And those people are choosing darkness.
Yeah.
And when you're choosing darkness, it should scare you a little bit, and it did me. So took the girls off, put them somewhere else, and to keep them safe. And so that's just a personal choice that I made. As far as design and materialism of design, look, I love design. I love the creativeness and the artisticness of God. I see it, you know, when I see the sunsets and the things that I've seen traveling and even in my own backyard, in a very spec neighborhood that has like houses around it, and you look up and you see that, you're like, he was a designer. I mean, he was an artist. He was a designer. I've chosen a portion of him, and then my background comes. It's extremely poor, and I don't say that in like I mean it. Like, it was like real. Yes. Like, we didn't have anything, and so. You know, my mom found me at 8 years old, like painting the walls, me and my brother, like while she was gone and working. And it just kind of led up to this huge insecurity of me not having friends over. I didn't want my friends over. Designing Lauren's house alongside of Lauren was super fascinating for me. I don't even think we've ever talked about this. Super fascinating. We talk so much about other things. I don't think we ever got around to it. But when she talked about her house, I've never, ever had a 20-year-old, she was 20 in her 20s at the time, I think, say to me, I just want my house, A, to serve the Lord and mean it. Like, she really meant it. And then B, to be like my grandmother's house, because I felt safe there. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't put these Bible verses on your walls. Please, God. You know what I mean? Lord Jesus, get out of Knoxville. And so, you know, we had these funny moments where, as a designer, I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, people are going to judge me for what, you know, she's doing to her walls. But where that came from for me, and I think there's actually it's going to probably be in a magazine that's going to be talked about, is because it's rare for someone to ask that. The safety that she must have felt in her childhood was so tangible to her that she wanted to recreate that for her children. Wow. And she goes back there to feel safe. She feels Jesus there. You know, my mom is amazing, and she will give us all a high five on the way into heaven. She's been dealt some bad cards. So this is not any reflection on her. This is actually how Christians do live. They're handed these, you know, their lives don't look pretty. And she's one of those who has maintained her relationship with Jesus with nothing, absolutely nothing. And that is, you know, where I come from, which I appreciate more than any tangible thing. But I will say that I was always embarrassed to have kids over. I was always trying to hang weird things on the walls, and just, it came with this insecurity. It also came with like a deep passion for creating that for other people. So what people don't know is I pray in their homes, like for them when I'm there. I try to consecrate the home. We're actually
you're
reading.
mothering the homes as you're doing this.
Yeah.
That's wild,
And so I
April.
have like a deep passion for people's houses, and I will do things that I don't like because I know that makes them happy. Then on the flip side, I'm an artist, and I do find the value in other people's art. So when an artist is creating an amazing piece of art, like, I want to pay them for that art. It's not a materialistic, like, oh, I have such and such as things. Like, I find these local artists that are young, and they have to make a living, and that living costs money. And so I try to bring in like these artists, the furniture creators. I find such value in those things. It's not materialistic. People are creating those things with their hands. I get to watch it, which is so cool. Like, I can't make a sofa. I can't make a curtain. I can't make a piece of art. Can't make any of those things. But I can bring collectively that into someone's home and share all this love of these artists in someone's home. And if you can afford it, you know, you should do that for yourself. You know what I mean? That's my personal belief, as long as your first earnings and whatever God has called you to give, you are giving that first. And then I think it's okay. I think it creates safety for a kid. You know, I'm here to talk about how we live in love and how I live alongside of Lauren in love. And, you know, she has a big house. No, you know, if you watch her Instagram or watch anybody's Instagram, it's a big house. It's a beautiful house. It's not a cheap house, that's for sure. What I have seen occur in that house is there are no limits. When our power went out, we went and stayed with them. My whole family went and stayed at their house. No questions asked. Come stay. It is a fortress. It's a haven for so many people, for her entire family. I never go over there. And
Your
there's not,
entire family.
I never
All
go
20 of
over
us.
there. You know, what brought me to Jesus even here recently as I walked away is what I was sitting in her living room and we had a prayer night and we were all, we call it the throne room, but we were all in the physical throne room with Jesus. I was broken, very, very much so. And it was in her house. So, you know, it's really cool to talk about people's homes in a way that's not materialistic, but does require money, you know. And then on my Instagram, I do try to give people access to things that are, you know, affordable that they can do. Because, look, there's a ton of affordable things that you can do to create a safe space for your children and your life. And your, you know, Target is, Walmart even has good things. I mean, it's just putting the thought and the love into it and making it feel like home.
Yeah.
Or calling on a friend to help you do it if you're not, you know, not gifted in that area. You don't have to hire a designer. So that is how I deal with those two areas of life.
That's good, April.
Okay, so Lauren, when I'm here in April, I'm thinking about all of our friends with lots of different budgets who are all building a home for their family, for their kids. Why does your kids' experience in the home matter? How have you seen that? Like, not only people coming over, but the couches they're sitting on. And, like, how does that affect your mothering?
So when I told April that I wanted her to build a house, her and Austin, to build a house that feels like my grandmother's homes, both of my grandmothers, and even Thomas Rhett's grandmothers, all four of them are huge parts of our life. And when I look back on my life as a kid, that's where my kids are now. And I so often look at my children and think, like, I put myself back in my mom's shoes, like when we were that age, and go, like, how would my mom do this? How would I feel in this situation as a kid? And how would my mom respond to things? Because my mom there is no one like my mom. I hope to be, at the end of motherhood, at the end of my life, I hope I am half the mom that my mom was to me and my brother and sister. But when I think back over my childhood, I do think of my grandparents' homes and the love that I was raised in. In my childhood, I go back there, I go back to my neighborhood, I go back to my parents' house. And when I think of those memories, there's so much joy and love. We did not have a big house growing up. My parents still lived there. And it was not big, but like April was saying, they did not have money to splurge and hire a designer. But the love that my mom poured into that home made me who I am. The experiences we had in that home, and the couches were full to the point where we would start making places on the floor because our house wasn't big. But my house was the house that everybody wanted to come to because that's where everyone experienced love and peace and joy, like such joy. And when I think back over when I was the age that my kids are, I see myself back in my house, in my front yard, on my couches with my mom, in Kitty Kate's kitchen, in my grandparents' kitchen, playing with my Mimi, playing with Granddaddy. And then I also, like, remember the tragic moments, like Kitty Kate passed away this year, and I found my grandfather right after he had died. And when Hunter died, I can see myself at his home, at the Thompson's home, right across the street from my parents. I can see myself in my front yard talking to God, asking him why he took him so early. Like, through all the heartbreak of my life that feels unbearable sometimes, I always go back to my home and the homes I was raised in, and that was my parents' home and Kitty Kate's home and Mimi and Granddaddy's home, and then now that I'm married, also being raised in Mammy's home and Mama and Papa's home on Thomas Rhett's side of the family, and watching my kids being raised in Paige's home, my mother-in-law. And, like, there are going to be moments in my life that, and in my children's life, that are so hard for them to walk through. But what I want for them is that safe place to come back to, or when their friends are walking through a hard moment, a safe place for their friends to come into. And I want their memories to be full of, even through the hard times, they had that place of peace and love and joy, even when there was a lot of sadness. And it is a safety net. Just what April was saying, like, it is such safety for me that I feel, and I know my kids feel in our home that April helped come to life. And it is a place where our friends feel safe. And a lot of Jesus's name is made greater in our home. And that is my most proud thing. That is my most proud part of my house, is that I'm giving that home over to Jesus for what he wants to use it for. But as far as my kids go, I'm watching them being raised in a loving home, in a happy home, in a home that deals with issues, in a home that doesn't hide things and hardships. And in Paige's home, where, you know, I watch her love my kids well, and they have a safe place in her home. They have a safe place in my mom's home. The home that you build, no matter how small it is so important to me. But I knew that I wanted to fill my home with as many kids as Thomas Rhett and God will allow me to have. And also with their friends.
Yeah.
And I hope that they come over for their groups when their kids are in high school and doing like small groups or having worship night or want to do a ball game in the backyard or watch a movie or just sleepovers and do homework. And that's what I want my home to be.
And now our kids go to the same school, so I've got to like compete with that to get them to come to my house every once in a while. Or they're going to have to build me a side house.
That's right.
To live at their house, because my kids are always going to want to be. And currently today they always go, I want to go play in Willa Gray and Ada's playroom. It's so special to them. It's such a loved in like little space. It's so fun for little kids, and it was my favorite room. But my kids even say, I want to go play. You know, they want to play with the kids, but they also want to play, you know, on the bunk beds and in the little houses. It's just so fun.
It's so fun.
Mackenzie, what are your favorite things about each of the girls?
Oh, gosh. There's so many. I'll start with Lennon. She is the one that I've had, like, from the beginning. You know,
She started when Ada James was how old?
15 months.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
Yeah.
whoa, that was a tough age.
Oh, yeah.
Glad you came in when you did.
Ada James, trial by fire.
Yeah.
Yes. Lennon, I feel like you say this a lot, she's very bashful. She kind of looks at you whenever she's about to do something, very cautious, but also she is just full force. She'll kind of just like check to see if, you know, okay, I know I can go down this stair, but are you going to give me the affirmation that I can? Just such adventure. And then Ada James, me and her have a really good connection, I feel. It's a lot of like tough love that I give her because even though she's not my kid, I see a lot of how I was as a kid in her.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's a lot of tough love, but my goodness, does it make me feel like $1,000,000 when I walk in the door and she's like, Mackie, and just like comes running to me. So even in the hard times, I feel like she is just willing to snuggle up with me and kind of be the more physically affectionate one. And then always ready, just, again, adventure, which of course comes from Lauren. All her kids have that. But and then Willa Gray, she is so observant and like so self-aware as a 5-year-old. I mean, last night she was in the bathtub and she remembered a dress you had on or something.
Yes.
You wore that to she said, Mommy, you wore that to church one time. And we haven't been to church in a year and a half.
Over a year, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's so observant and just so aware. She was helping us bathe Lennon. And
She washed Lennon's hair for the first time.
hair for the first time last night. Yeah. And I just feel like she's become such a helper and just is so eager to learn about Jesus. I mean, so eager to learn. And truly, I see her like every night wanting to know, okay, Easter's coming up. Well, what is Easter? Like, asking about like, okay, Jesus died on the cross. Well, why did he have to die that way? Or just so many curious things as a 5.5-year-old that I'm like, holy cow, you're smart and you are just going to change the world. They all are, but gosh, there's so many things. But I would say for all three of them, adventure is just in their bones. Yeah. And it is just so cool to like be alongside of that and help them, experience that adventure. So
you're such a gift.
Such
you really are.
a gift.
Thank you.
I would be dead without Mackenzie.
I know.
I'm not kidding.
I'd be dead without Katie, for sure.
I'd be dead without Mackenzie. I'd be dead without Mo. I'd be dead without Elbia.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I said this earlier, but I try to just like finish the day. And when my head hits the pillow, it's like, have I loved, have I cared, and have I supported Lauren and Thomas Rat today?
Wow.
Not have I taught the kids algebra by 6 years old?
Right.
Am I having them be bilingual? Maybe not things that I'm like bringing to the table, but I feel like in the busyness and the amazing chaos that y'all have, if I'm here to like love, support, and care, then I am like doing my job as your friend and as your nanny. So hopefully.
I'm so thankful you're my friend and our nanny. It never fails. When we go have a date night downstairs, we'll come upstairs and the house is spotless. And the kids are like all tucked in. She's made a grocery list for the next day. And then we walk into our room. The bed's like, there might be a little bit of popcorn kernels left over where the girls have just had popcorn and marshmallows. And lights are just barely dimmed and candles are lit next to our bed. And Thomas Schroeder's like, I love when Mackenzie puts the kids down. He's like, she knows what's up. Okay, so at the end of every episode, we're asking the same question, and I have consistently failed to prepare anyone for this question at the end of episodes. Whoops. But here it goes. April, I'm going to ask you first.
Okay.
How do you live in love in motherhood? What does that mean to you? Or when you hear that, what does that say to your heart? Or how do you choose to live that way?
Man, so, in the past, let's say 4 months, and you know this about me, everything truthfully in my life, it really does come back to Jesus. And it's just, there's no more simple way of saying it. So for me, I cannot say that I am living in love and just turning them over to Jesus so that he can take control and like use me and them the way that he wants. But I will say today, I'm trying to develop an intimacy with him that allows me to love them and love him in the way that they were created to be. With that said, if that means they become missionaries, that is what I can't say that in motherhood I'm living in love the way that I want to be, because if I see it through the lens of Jesus, I know that he wants me to fully turn them over. And so I love them. I do. But I've got to become unconvinced that my love for them trumps his love. And I've got to, kind of rebuke Satan with the fear that I have in my heart to travel and enjoy my own personal life. And if he wants them to move to Africa and adopt 17 kids, like these things, that is where I am currently. And that is, if I'm looking through the eyes of Jesus, I have not fully done that yet. So I'm a work in progress, I guess.
That it
So
means
good.
so much to so many of us listening.
Yep.
To hear that we're all on that journey. So
Amen.
Thank you. That's a gift.
Mackie, how do you live in love in nannyhood?
Nannyhood. I feel like if I could describe it in one word, it would be service. I feel like I see a lot of service in your life. If that's like the way you open up your home or in community or in your marriage or you being a mom. For me, I feel like the best way I can do that is just serving you and your family and letting you do what you and Thomas Rat do best and continue to share Jesus and continue just to change the world one relationship at a time. And then serving your kids by just helping them just flourish into their personalities and be who they are and just slowly every day show them Jesus and how, if Ada James is saying that she's scared, or Willa Gray is being shy, or Lennon's learning to express herself through screaming, or whatever, serving them in ways of like giving them just tools and resources to grow and be more like Jesus and just, make things hopefully a little easier for you every day.
It's so much easier.
Lauren, what does it look like for you to live in love in motherhood?
Not listen to the world, I think, is my biggest thing in motherhood, is to I know what's best for my kids. I do, because I know I'm leaning on Jesus, and if he's telling me this is right, to not listen to what the world may tell me to do, or to keep going down this road because this is going to be success, or whatever the lie I feel like the world can tell me be, is just not listening to the world and just trusting, like April said, just continuing to trust my kids with open hands with Jesus and with Mackenzie and our moms and whoever my kids are with, just trusting that the Lord has their little life. And if I can continue to give them over to him each day, then I can love them patiently through the tantrums and I can encourage them and hopefully also show them how important Jesus is in my life and in their friend's life with Everly and Adeline and in their nanny's life. And as long as they grow up knowing that, that's the best thing I can do to love my kids is to show them Jesus. So it is. Every day is a work in progress for a mom, but if you're doing it the right way with the right person and the right people around you, it can be the most rewarding, the hardest, but the most rewarding job in the world. Thank y'all so much for listening. I love getting to share these conversations with you. If you love this episode, please rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. And just a reminder, you can pick up your copy of the paperback edition of Live in Love that's available now. And I hope that you'll join us for our next episode of the Live in Love podcast, where we'll be talking about what it means to live in love in adoption.